Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
It's her name on the battle bus, on the election leaflets, and on the placards that surround every speech that Theresa May makes. For the Tories, the Prime Minister is the prime asset of the party in this highly personalised campaign. A low-profile Remainer during the referendum, she has turned into the warrior leader of the drive towards Brexit. But what is it that drives Theresa May herself? Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, has been speaking to some of those who know her best.
Theresa May doesn't like to be rushed. She's happy to hide for some time from public view, not afraid of long periods of political silence. She's something of an enigma, even to those who've known her for years. Ambitious, but for what?
May they be for us the body and blood of your dear son.
This would have been a regular view the young Theresa May had of her father. She was the only child of the late Reverend Hubert Brazier, vicar at this Oxfordshire church for 11 years. At Oxford University, she met Alicia Collinson and her husband Damien Green, now in her cabinet.
That was my cartoon of Theresa in charge of the punt.
With Philip May sitting in front of her.
Popping the champagne cork, yes.
They all attended a jokey debating society.
And she made you laugh?
Oh, yes. She was very funny.
Some people will struggle to imagine Theresa May in stand-up.
Well, they might, but that's what she did. Yeah.
She saved her serious speeches for the Oxford Union debates. She was seriously ambitious.
Over breakfast one day, she said she wanted to be Prime Minister.
At university?
In the first term, sometime in the autumn of '74.
What drove her, do you think? Why did she want to be Prime Minister?
She wanted to change things. It's very obvious, even then.
Change what, do you think?
The socialism that one was facing.
Push back socialism?
Yes. And there was an awful lot of that about.
For some, the biggest motivator is a tribal loyalty to a party whose name is hidden from view in this election, but whose interests she's passionate about.
She's completely a creation of the Conservative Party in the way her predecessors weren't. She joined it before she went to university. She's been a local councillor. She married another Tory activist.
It's the right decision. It's in the national interest. And that's what this election is about.
She's much more partisan than the sort of slightly sort of headmistressly demeanour suggests. She's a highly partisan politician.
Yet Clegg thinks the campaign slogans flatter Theresa May's powers of decisiveness.
Appearances deceive, because she's being sort of puffed up by the sort of Praetorian Guard and the right-wing press as the most decisive sort of Boudicca figure who's cutting a dash against all these ghastly saboteurs. She's having qualities of decisiveness conferred upon her by her supporters in the press.
And you didn't see them?
My experience was not always there.
We delivered the certainty that strong and stable leadership can give. And that's what leadership looks like.
I mean, if you ask me, is she the most decisive politician I've worked with, I would put her quite down the league table of decisiveness.
At Oxford, it wasn't politics she studied, but geography.
This is something I found in a box from the very beginning of our time at Oxford, and I think it's instructive because it was all about gathering evidence, gathering your own evidence, not
about rainfall,
temperatures. So we've got data here, we've got the raw data here, we've got...
Again, we're talking about rainfall and temperature data.
The thermograph.
And this is all logged by Theresa and you.
And us,
and
yes. So we've got dry bulb, wet bulb.
Wind direction.
Relative humidity. We had thunder and lightning, hail and heavy rain, so that was really good. But the rest of the time had been a bit dull.
But this tells you, you feel this has an echo of the person you know now?
It's evidence. We were taught, don't take somebody else's data. And I think this is a very, very early indication of what she was like.
Her critics in government say with Theresa May, there's sometimes too much of the weather logging, getting bogged down in the detail, and a wariness of challenge from Whitehall officials.
She's methodical, she's quite technocratic, she's managerial, she, I think, thrives in environments where she pulls the levers.
It's a government of intense central control. Her and her two co-chiefs of staff, Nick Timothy and Fiona Hill, really have concentrated power in Downing Street to an extraordinary degree.
Easy to say that all you want from government is for it to get out of the way. But a change has got to come. It's time to remember the good that government can do.
Theresa May and her aides promote energy price caps, intervening on executive pay. They argue the post-Thatcher anti-state Tory reflex got out of hand. But the reforms unveiled in her first 10 months in office haven't matched the revolutionary talk.
A change has got to come, and this party is going to make it.
Her childhood hero was Geoffrey Boycott, the master of long, uneventful innings. And Brexit aside, is that what a victory would bring?
For most of the time, she looks like Geoff Boycott, and she inches her way forward very slowly, clocking up single after single at a attritionally low rate. But every now and again, she'll suddenly swing the bat and go for it.
I have just chaired a meeting of the Cabinet where we agreed that the government should call a general election.
We should get used to this very cautious person who inches her way forward, suddenly making the sudden lunge for whatever it is she wants to seize.
A display of unity today, but Theresa May's aides have blamed the Treasury for holding back reform, and many think he could lose his job.
Prime Minister, can you give us an endorsement of the Chancellor?
Happy to do so, yes. Very happy to do so. And as Philip says, we've worked together over the years, for many years, longer than we would care to identify. I think that's an age-related comment, nothing else, just in case you try and relate anything into that.
Mocking or crossing Theresa May is not something you should do lightly. 5 years ago, the Police Federation made her stand in front of this sign and asked police if they believed Theresa May on police pay.
Put your hand up if you do. Well, Home Secretary, I know not even you put your hand up.
Well, I did believe it.
Gentleman there. Nice little gimmick, Paul. OK, guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Gentleman there.
3 years later, she was back with this.
If you do not change of your own accord, we will impose change on you.
Many think her policies are all too often shaped by loathing for the clique that preceded her. Their breezy confidence and condescension drive her to unpick what they put in place.
She feels that there was a gang of intellectually self-confident types. Prime Minister himself, David Cameron, Chancellor George Osborne, yourself. She was excluded from that, didn't like it. It's true, isn't it?
I don't think so, no. I think
she loved it.
I think what's
loved
striking... No, I think that the depiction that you have, well, it's been a view that a number of commentators have put forward, doesn't chime with my my understanding or my recollection of our time in government together. I think the thing is that
there was a club and she wasn't in it, and she was very aware of that.
No, I don't think so.
And always felt her position precarious.
No, I don't think so.
Some of the extraordinary bristling suspicion of the old regime, the Cameron regime, the regime that made her Home Secretary, that gave her a great office of state, really comes from this difference of character. You know, when she says politics is not a game, who's that aimed at? You know, it was aimed at the preceding leadership.
The persona now is something of a sort of stern headmistress. That's what the nation is seeing. I think that's what the nation is meant to see in this campaign. Did you see that?
She was enigmatic. That was the word I would describe her as being.
You never quite knew what she was thinking?
She was measured.
Theresa May said the Brexit vote was a cry for change and tried to put herself at the front of the angry mob. Now this most unknowable and unlikely revolutionary proclaims herself as the force of stability. She can't be both. She might be neither.
A little riddle at the end. In that picture of Theresa May at Oxford, can you name the bloke sitting in the back
Send me a message on Twitter and I'll tell you if you're right.
I've been